This is the first video of many for the underrated defensive players that I'm going to be picking, one from each NFL team. I've already done a whole series on one offensive player from each team, so if you haven't seen any of them, there'll be a playlist that you can check out and check out your specific team or all the teams. But for this video, as I said, it's one defensive player, so that's linebackers, edge rushers, defensive tackles, cornerbacks, safeties, you name it. We're going to be picking one from each team, so let's get into it. Grady Jarrett is an excellent player for me, but just does not receive the plaudits that other players in his position receive. And I attribute this for two reasons, and the first one being he's on a defense that has been average not just last season but for the last couple of years. And then two, it's because he also isn't surrounded both on offense or defense by any real household names that are able to boost his name into the limelight more. The Falcons need to get Jarrett some help for their own sake in order to rush the quarterback through different avenues. Now, I'm not saying that Grady Jarrett is that franchise player. That's the likes of Myles Garrett, Nick Bosa, Aaron Donald, these players of the world are, but he is a player that is consistent in his play and should be held in a higher regard because of that. Finding a guy that disrupts the play and puts a quarterback off is a lot harder for me than finding someone who's effective off the edge rushing the quarterback. That's exactly who Derek Brown is. He lives for disrupting quarterbacks in terms of getting them off their mark, getting their rhythm and their timing off, making them push up in the pocket, because he's not a sack beast. He just moves the offensive line, forcing the quarterback to change their decision. As I said, looking at his sack numbers, it doesn't tell you anything because he only recorded one last season. It's the pressures that he puts on in order to make the quarterback move around in the pocket and force them into his teammates, those edge rushers that ultimately do get the sacks, which are held in a higher regard across the NFL community, I guess. And that's why for me, Derek Brown is not held in a higher regard compared to other players around the league for this lack of production in areas that are held pretty high. And I think Derek Brown should be based on his play. I thought the loss of Trey Hendrickson was an absolute huge one a couple of seasons ago for the Saints, but they may have found something here in undrafted free agent Kyle Granderson. Granderson had a monster year against the run, with a PFF run defense grade of 84.4, which was the second best in all of the edge rushers throughout the NFL. 8 of his 22 pressures ended up being sacks, and then on top of this, 34 of his tackles resulted in a defensive stop. With this production from last season, I see Kyle Granderson gaining more time on the field for the New Orleans Saints. Jamel Dean's performance isn't appreciated enough for me, and I'm not just talking about the season just gone. All 4 of his years in the league have been as consistent as anyone. Jamel Dean has not dropped below an average PFF grading of 74.5 in all 4 seasons, which is mighty impressive given the names that he would come up against in terms of the wide receivers he's playing on. More recently, with the season just gone, Tampa Bay were unfortunately without the likes of Carlton Davis and Antoine Winfield Jr. for a large majority of the season, which left Jamel Dean to really hold down that fort for the defensive backs room, which he did, and then some. The Tampa Bay defense as well in general were able to keep them in games. Unfortunately, it was the offense that let them down and let Jamel Dean down.